Hi, this is Joseph from NizhoniPhoto.com, and welcome to our free Lightroom course. So in this class, I'm going to keep it real simple. This is going to be a class for beginners and intermediate level Lightroom users. Okay, so if you have no idea how Lightroom works and you just want to learn the basics, this class is for you. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over every area of Lightroom that I feel is important for post-processing your images, and I'm going to go into those areas in great detail. However, I'm going to really try to stay away from being overly technical, and I'm going to really try to explain things in a way that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense to someone that really doesn't have a lot of experience with post-processing and photography. So let's get right into it. This class, it's going to be separated into multiple videos, so you don't need to watch each video sequentially. If you're interested in post-processing, you can go right ahead to the post-processing. If you're interested in folders and organization, you can go to the video on folders. So you don't have to watch each video back to back. But if you're new, I really do recommend that you do that, because if you go through each video and you really digest them, by the time you get to the end of this class, you're going to have a good foundational information of Lightroom. And once you have that foundation, if there is an area that you want more advanced training in, you can just look into that area. Because I don't believe that you need to be advanced in every single area of Lightroom. I feel that it's going to be far more efficient for you to learn a little bit of everything, but then only go real advanced into the areas that are really going to impact your photography a lot more. So once you have that foundational information, then you can decide where you want to go from there. Me personally, I like to learn a little bit about everything, and for the most part I feel like I have a good understanding of most of what Lightroom has to offer, but there are areas of it that even I don't use that often. There's a lot of features in Lightroom, and they don't apply to every kind of photography. So that's why I'm really going to go over the things that I feel will be universally helpful to most photographers, regardless of what kind of photography you're doing. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to start right now with a tour of the interface. Right now, I am in the library module, and you can see we have all of our images laid out in this grid viewfinder. Now, I'm going to go over a few hotkeys here. If you tap the T key, you can see that it is hiding this toolbar down here. Okay, that's a really helpful thing to know, because this toolbar, it's very easy for you to accidentally tap that T key without realizing it, and then that toolbar just disappears. And you're going to be working, and one day you'll realize, wait, where did that toolbar go? That was really helpful. What happened? Well, you probably tapped the T key and made it disappear. So always keep that in mind. Tap the T key to keep that toolbar where you want it, okay? Or if you don't want it, if it gets in your way, just tap the T key again to make it go away. All right. I think I've explained that T key enough. Don't you? Okay, so about this toolbar, if we look from the left to the right, we have our grid viewfinder. We can hover our mouse over here. You see, this is our grid viewfinder. And we have this Loupe viewfinder. Okay, now the Loupe is going to show us our photo as a larger, almost full screen version of itself. Okay, the grid viewfinder shows us all of our photos in these little thumbnails. We can get between the Loupe and the grid viewfinder by tapping E to go into the Loupe and G to go into the grid viewfinder. And if you hover your mouse over these icons, it'll show you that there's the hotkey right there. Oh, that disappeared on me. You see the hotkey down there? It tells us that the E key is our hotkey. Keep that in mind. Most tools in Lightroom, if you hover over them for long enough, it'll show you what the hotkey is to get in there. Okay. Couple more things about hotkeys before we talk a little more about viewing our images. Okay. If you tap the F key, it's going to show you this full screen version of your photo. And from in here, you can tap the right key to cycle between your images. Okay? If you tap the F again, it's going to take you back into your normal Lightroom. If you hold the Shift and tap the F key, you see it's changing the way Lightroom looks on your desktop. See, now it's showing me this condensed version of Lightroom where I have all of my toolbars available to me. If we tap F again, it takes away that main little toolbar, and if we tap F a third time, it takes us into this full screen view. Okay? Another thing is you can do what's called a lights out mode, where if you tap the L key, it's going to show you your photos without with the screen darkened. To be honest, I really have no idea why that would even matter at all. But for some reason, it's there. I mean, you could look at your photos like this if you really wanted to. Okay. I guess I could see some use for it if you wanted to just view your images. But I don't understand how that's that much different than just looking at it like this. So that's the lights out feature. Tap the L key again. Actually, we're in the full screen, so we're going to tap the F, and we're back into Lightroom. Okay. Let's go into the grid viewfinder again by tapping G. One thing I want to talk about is the grid viewfinder and how you can view this metadata information up here. And again, I'm getting technical there. Okay, what metadata is it's just information that's stored in your file. So metadata can be like the time you took the photo, the camera you took the photo with, the camera settings you used. All of those things are information that's actually cooked into the file, and we call that information metadata. Okay? Now in the grid viewfinder, this is helpful. This is why I want you to know about this. You can look at the metadata in your file in the grid viewfinder. Okay? There's this information is actually supposed to be portioned out in 4 different sections. So there's one here, 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 and here. And you can customize what you see in these grid thumbnails. So let's right click here, and you see I have it set to index number. So let's click none, and it's disappeared. Here I have it set to file name. Let's click none, and you see that's disappeared. So we can put this information in any corner of this grid thumbnail. Okay? And as you can see, we have a lot of different options, a whole ton of different options. Me personally, for the thumbnails, here's how I recommend you do it. I recommend that you do an index number and you do your file name. Okay. The reason why is because this is going to keep your images looking clean. When you're going through the grid viewfinder, I view that this will be the place that you'll go if you're trying to find single images. And sometimes I will find images based on the last 4 numbers that are on these file names. So it makes it a lot easier to do that if you just keep the information minimal in this thumbnail. Okay? An index number, all that is it shows you the number of photos that you have in this specific folder. And that's it. Okay. Let's tap the E key to go into the Loupe view. Okay? If we tap I, we can see information. This is metadata information again. We can tap it twice because we have 2 different sets of information we can see. Let's tap it again. There's our second set of information. Tap it a third time and it's gone. So for me, I have it showing me what my file name is, the date and time, the date and time that I took the image, and the megapixel size. In the second screen, I want it to show me the camera I took the image with, the settings, the focal length, and the lens. Now we can even customize this information too. If we right-click and we go to View Options, you see here we have it set to Loupe View. Okay, here's all this information that we can customize. So here we have it set to Loupe View 2, Info 2. So you can see I have camera info, common photo settings. And this is what I recommend you do with one of your info tabs. Just do camera model and common info settings. The reason why you should do this is because common info settings, you see you have all these different settings like lens, ISO, focal length, blah, 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 exposure. Well, common photo settings has all of that information in one. So you're essentially killing like 5 birds with one stone. So it's much more helpful to have at least one of these areas set to common photo settings. Okay, and then for the first info 1, this is just personal preference. I just like seeing what the file name is and when I took the image. But again, you can customize this to anything you want. Now remember that grid view finder for the information in the grid view. Here is that customized information there. Let's go into the grid view. Oh, there we are. Didn't realize that it set it for us. So you can see we can remove this index number up here by clicking none. And if we wanted to, we can put it down here. See, there it is. I don't like the way that looks, so we're going to switch it back. Okay, and then just real quick while we're in here. So again, we right-clicked and we went to View Options. And then here we have a bunch of cool settings that we can work with. It can show us expanded grid extras. This is where it pretty much shows us all of our information. You know what? I'm not going to go into this now. I'm going to have a separate video that goes into all preferences. So don't worry about this for now. I'm just showing you this information because I feel like this is a very helpful thing to know at the start of the class, how you can make Lightroom show you certain information in your files. But we'll go into everything else a little bit later. Okay. For now, we're going to keep it simple. Okay. Now let's talk about these little sidebars at the top and on the sides of our photos. Okay. At the top here, this shows us the modules that we can work in Lightroom. So right now we're in the library module. This is where we view our images. The develop module is where we go to actually process our photos. Okay. Now let's go back to the library because I want to show you. If you tap the D key, that's a hotkey that will take you into the develop module. It's pretty intuitive. But if you want to get back into the library module, you can either tap the G key or the E key. So if you tap the G key, it'll take you into the grid view finder, and if you tap the E key, it'll take you into the Loupe. Okay? I want you to look at this little arrow here. If we click this and click it, we can make this disappear and reappear, just like that. If we right-click on this arrow, we have different options here. If we set it to manual, what it does is we have to manually click this button to make this toolbar show and hide. Okay? And we can do this with any of these toolbars. Any of them. Okay? We also have auto hide. What that does is when we click on a toolbar, it'll show up, but when we hover away, it disappears. So you have to click to make it show, hover away to make it disappear. Auto hide and auto show is probably my second favorite way to set these toolbars. You hover over it and it shows, you pull away, it disappears. I kind of think auto hide and auto show is the most useful for the top toolbar. The rest of them I like to set to manual personally. So the reason why this is helpful is because if you're working on a laptop or anything with a smaller screen, You're going to want to do this in order to save screen real estate so that you can see more of your image. Me personally, I work on a 13-inch MacBook Pro, so I do this a lot if I want to see a larger version of my image. There are hotkeys that you can use to make those go away, make those sidebars go away, but I'll go into that in another video. I'll have a video that's fully devoted to just hotkeys. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and manually open all of these because I want to explain what everything is. Starting from the left, we're in the library module, we have our navigator. And essentially what the navigator is it's just a preview of our image. So if we click in, we can pull in closer on our photo, and we can zoom in on our photo. This is really helpful if we're checking for pixelization or sharpness, things like that. Okay? Now we have different settings up here. We have fit that shows us our image at the normal aspect ratio. If you ever notice, like, hey, what the heck, my image is zooming in, why is it not showing me this photo as it's supposed to be seen? Well, you probably have it set to fill or something like that, so set it back to fit and it'll work. So you have fit, fill. Fill is kind of pointless. I don't understand what the need of this is. 1:1 is also barely even more zoomed in than fill. And the next button down is a customizable zoom. So if we right click here, excuse me, not right click, but if we click to the right of this number, we have different settings. So 11:1 is the closest we can zoom in, and this goes down to almost the pixel level, depending on how many megapixels you're shooting with. Okay? I prefer to set this to 3:1 because I view that this pulls in close enough to really check sharpness appropriately. So that is the navigator. Okay. The catalog. This is essentially where you're going to be not storing your photos, but storing the edits that you do on your photos. So everything that you do in Lightroom, every kind of edit you make or change to metadata or anything, you're really working within a catalog. Let's see how to actually create catalogs. So you can create a new catalog if you wanted to. You want to just make sure that you create this in your Lightroom folder. You see, we're getting a little technical here. So let me back up a little bit. You just need to create a single catalog to edit your photos in. That's all you got to do. So if this is the first time that you're coming into Lightroom, Lightroom will actually help you make a catalog, but every time you're editing, you're pretty much making those edits within this catalog. And if you delete that catalog or lose it, Lightroom's not going to remember anything you've done to your photos. Okay? So all of this work that you've done is gone. Now, you want to just keep one catalog at a time for now. Just one catalog at a time. Because you don't want to have multiple catalogs to make it too confusing at this point. But just keep in mind that some photographers have multiple catalogs. Now, the reason why you might want multiple catalogs is if you're, say, a wedding photographer and you have tens of thousands of images like every year. Like I know photographers that every year they shoot 30,000 photos. Well, you would want different catalogs because you can only have so many photos in one catalog until it starts slowing down Lightroom. So some of those photographers will have a catalog for each year. But for you, you're just going to create one catalog and leave it at that for now. If you ever get to the point where you have tens of thousands of photos, look into how to create new catalogs and how to work with those. But for now, just keep one catalog. Folders and collections. This is an area that we have a whole separate video on each of these, so we'll talk about it then. Down here, this is the film strip. The film strip is two things. It shows us a preview of our images in a folder, okay? But it also allows us to filter through our images based on ratings, like star ratings and things like that. We have a whole detailed video that'll go into this as well. But just understand that the film strip is essentially where you go if you're going to be sifting through your photos based on ratings and things like that. Most of the time I leave this closed unless I need it. To the right we have, this just pertains to the library module, okay? We have quick develop, keywording lists, metadata, comments. Quick develop, this is where we can add basic image edits to our photos in the library module. So to be honest, I never play around with this, like ever. But let's see if we can. Yeah, you see, we can add a little bit of exposure to our images if we wanted to. I don't want to mess around with this image at all. I'm going to go into the develop module, and I am going to go back down to import to change back to where we had it. But yeah, this is where you can add basic image edits to your photos right from the library. I never use this. I do image edits in the develop panel because I want to work on my images one by one. But if you're a wedding photographer and you have 3,000 images you're going through in one shoot, you might want to do this in order to post-process your photos quicker. I never use this though. Keywording, we have a whole video on this, so we'll talk about that later. Metadata. This, again, metadata is all the information that's in our photo, and this is going to show us all of this information that we have stored in this file. Everything from the file name, the size of the image, the file type, when we took the image, when we edited the image, right down to the precise camera settings of our photo. We can even have GPS coordinates, everything. This is all of the information that we want stored in our file. Metadata is extremely important. Okay, and then comments, this is another area that I really, it's not even supported here, so this is kind of a worthless thing to have for me right now. And that beautifully leads into another little tip. You can make any of these little toolbars that are unnecessary, you can make them disappear very easily. If you right click in this on any of these toolbars, you see they will show up. And I don't want comments to show up here, so I'm going to uncheck that, and now comments is gone. Let's right click again because we have a couple different things. We have let's see, show all. Okay, that's just showing us all of these options for toolbars. Okay. Solo mode. Okay, what solo mode is, this is really helpful. Solo mode, essentially what it does is when you click on a toolbar, it will close the old ones and only keep the one open that you want to work in. Okay, so it can be kind of helpful just to keep your screen a little bit more uncluttered. Okay, so you see like here, you can go into keywording and then quick develop closes up. We can take it out of that. I prefer to not work in solo mode because I'll just open and close these as I want. And then finally expand all will open up all of these toolbars if you want them to be opened up. I never do, so I just collapse them all. And I just like to manually do it. I like to have control over what I'm doing. And last but not least, this is actually our histogram right here. I'll do a whole separate video on what the histogram is and why it's important. Okay, wrapping up this video, let's talk a little bit about the develop module. Again, you can tap the D key to get into the develop module at any time. To the left we have our navigator. We'll close that for now. Below that we have presets. Presets are very, very useful. What a preset is that you can create an image edit to your photo. Let's say we're going to do this. We can create a preset of this edit that we've done by clicking up here. And we can create this preset. We can name it whatever we want. We can choose what kind of preset folder it goes into. Down here, we actually check what we want our preset to pick up on here in the develop module. Okay, this is getting a little technical for so early in the class, so to tell you what, I'll do a whole separate video on presets. I'll just show you this for now so you can understand it, but we'll talk about creating presets later. What I will say is that presets could be helpful if you are new to Lightroom and you're not really sure where to start with your image edits. Presets can be a lifesaver, because what a preset basically does is it applies these settings to your photo, and then you can tweak them from there. So if we have our navigator open and we hover over a preset, you can see it's going to show us this little preview of what our preset's going to look like. So let's say we wanted to do general boost. Boom. See, it shows me over here what it did to our image. And we can tweak this preset like so. Okay? So that's what's cool about presets, because you can actually buy presets from professional photographers and they can be very useful. Don't spend too much money on them, but if you do have a favorite photographer and they're offering presets, I would recommend buying them, because again, it can be helpful for you to learn the possibilities of what you can do to your photos in Lightroom, because you can click on a preset and kind of tweak it and then call it a day on your image. So I find presets to be very, very useful. Snapshots and history. I talk about these in the develop module, but let me just go into them now as well. A snapshot, what this is it creates a snapshot of what you've done to your image in the develop module. So if I wanted to work on this image like so, I can create a snapshot by clicking the plus, and it's going to give me this name, but I can name this whatever I want, peek at it, and there it is. Now I can do anything to this image and click on my snapshot, and it's all good. I can delete the snapshot or rename it, anything. We'll delete it, and we'll reset our image. Snapshots are very useful if you've edited your image to a point where you love it and you love how it looks. Create a snapshot and call it something like my master edit, because then that way you're going to know, ooh, this is the snapshot of where I have my post-processing perfected. Okay? What history is history essentially keeps a log of every setting that we make, every image edit that we make to our photo. So you see, if I adjust the exposure, there it is. Adjust the exposure again, there it is. It tells me what I've done to the image and where the setting is right now with this history. Okay? This is very useful. History settings are useful if you're trying to backtrack on something that you've done on your image. So let's say I wanted to go back to my snapshot, but whoops, I deleted it. It's gone. Well, I can just go back through my history and I can find my old snapshot, and there it is. So that's what's really useful about history. One thing to know about history is that you can tell Lightroom how many history settings you want to remember. So you can say anything from remember only 20 history settings to remember in an indefinite amount. Like you could say remember 10,000 if you wanted to. There's pros and cons to both ways of doing that. The pro of remembering fewer history settings is that your computer will run a little bit faster. And the reason why is because each of these settings takes up a little teeny bit of memory or hard drive space. And if you have hundreds of history points on each image and you have thousands of images, over time you're going to start to slow down your computer. So if that's the case, you might want to start clipping the number of history settings that Lightroom will remember. Me personally, I like to remember an unlimited amount of history points. The reason why is because I'm not too worried about my computer slowing down. I don't have a lot of photos to begin with. And to me, I would rather deal with the slower computer, a slightly slower computer, but have the option to retrieve an edit that I've done by going back into my history. So that's why I choose to do it that way. If we move on to the right, we have our toolbar here. These are a few different tools we have. Everything from the crop tool, spot removal. Crop is obviously where we crop in on our image. Spot removal is where we can remove dust spots and unwanted elements from our photos. For example, if I wanted to remove this little buoy there, I could do that, like so. And boom, it's gone. That looks like crap, but I'd have to work on that a little more. Red eye removal tool. I don't even know why this is still in here. I so rarely ever see red eyes in photos. I don't know why this is even here. We have our graduated filter tool. I'll go into this later. And then also the radial filter and our adjustment brush. And then below that, we have the rest of our tool possibilities or sliders for post-processing. And that's it for our grand tour right now. Again, there's still more that you can learn in Lightroom. You got the map, the book, the slideshow, and the print. But again, we're focusing on these first three modules because these are the most important to know for now. So this is all I really want us to focus on for this particular class. So thanks for joining me and stay tuned for more helpful videos. Peace.